Hey, everybody. I think there's probably a couple people on. TBA, good morning. Can you hear me okay? Let me know. Let me know if you can hear me okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. I was fooling around with the sound this morning. Matt, hey. Hey, Matt, thanks for the info on Curtis Mayfield. I had no idea that he tuned in that weird tuning. And I don't think it's necessary to do that, but it is there. 2 shirts. Haha. I think there's actually a third on there, if you can believe that. And I still have the thing on the crate, and there's another shirt there. Really crazy. I still haven't put anything up on my walls. I'm not. I promise I'm not being lazy. I'm just never home. Anyway, so Fenderman, Black Key Tuning. Never knew that. All right. Hey, John, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate the comment. Excellent. Hi, Frank. Ozman Frank. All right. Well, why don't we get started? We've got about 10 folks on. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. Cap. Ayo. And I'm Anonymous is on today. Today we're going to talk about find that key, and then we're going to do a rock quiz. This is going to be really a guitar geek rock or a guitar geek quiz today. Two Bike Mike, glad you could join us today. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about finding the key, and I want to talk about 2 approaches, and then kind of a hybrid of them. The first is kind of conventional, and it involves some theory. Okay, so we'll just kind of talk about that briefly. So the first is conventional and involves theory. I'm just going to hold this up. So here's the basic theory that we all, I think, know. And I've got basically on the left-hand side, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in Roman numerals. Do you think the Roman soldiers actually counted out in Roman numerals? Anyway, it's kind of weird. Heard a comedian do that once. I. Anyway, IV, V, VI. Weird. All right. Anyway, and then I've got triads here, and then 7th chords. So, for example, the 1 chord in a if we're looking at triads is a major. Okay, the 2 chords a minor, the 3 chords a minor, the 4 chord is a major, the 5 chord's a major, the 6 chord is a minor, and the 7th chord is diminished. All right, and it looks like this is flipped around. I don't know. Looks normal to me, but it's flipped around in the mirror. I guess I should have written it backwards. If we're doing 7th chords, the 1 chord is a major 7, the 2 chords a minor 7, the 3 chords a minor 7, the 4 chords a major 7, the 5 chord is a dominant 7. That's where the major difference is, or the difference is. The 6th chord is a minor 7, and the 7th chord is a minor 7, flat 5, or a half diminished chord. So basically, one of the ways that you can do that, you can determine the key of a song or the key of some piece of music, is to figure out the chords and to see if what scale they fit into. So that's sort of the theory way of doing it, or a theory way of doing it. And if we take a look at a couple of those examples, sometimes it's pretty easy to do. Like, for example, on the Beatles, Hey Jude, there it is, Hey Jude, we've got, at least for the main part, the Hey Jude, don't make it bad, that part right there, that's F to C, take a sad song, C7. We can ignore the 7 for just a moment, and then back to F, okay? And then the last part, remember to let into your heart, then you can start by making better, or to make it better. All right, so anyway, that part right there, all those chords, F, C, B flat, and F, are all in the key of F. The 1 chord is an F. The 4 chord is a major, which is a major. The 4 chord is a major, which is a B flat. The 5 chord is a major, which is a C. So all of those work. All of those work pretty well. And I've got a question about what's the difference between a half diminished and a full diminished. I'll demonstrate it on here, but basically, we're looking at a diminished chord has a double minor. You would go to a double minor seventh, which is back to a sixth. Where it is here, you only have a minor seventh. That's the difference. I know it sounds weird. It's easy to see though if I show it to you. And then if we look at the refrain, hey Jude, refrain, read the world upon your shoulders. That's a B, G minor, C to F. So all of those chords are again in the key of F. We've got F, which is the 1 chord. The 2 chord is G minor, which is a minor. The 4 chords are B flat, and the 5 chords is C. And all of that makes sense. And so you can analyze that and you come up with, besides this one C7, which is a bit of a weird chord, it's not actually that weird. It just means that we're going to move to somewhere else. Everything fits into the key of F. So that's one way that you could do this. If you were listening to Hey Jude, you could look at the chords and you could say, okay, this is in the key of F. Of course, if you have the sheet music, you can always look at the key signature and notice that, oh, it says 1 flat. That's the key of F. So that's even more theory that you'd need to know. But let's not go there for now. Let's look at another one that's actually pretty simple, or a lot simpler. Sweet Home Alabama. So we've got D to C to G. So this is, I guess it's easier in one sense because there's fewer chords, but it's a little bit trickier because it doesn't start on the chord that the key is in, right? We've got D, we've got C, and we've got G. So here we've got, this is in the key of G, because the G is the 1 chord, the 4 chord would be the C, and then the 5 chord would be the D. Now, this is not the only way that you can look at it. And interestingly, I guess Al Cooper and Ed King had an argument about this, and apparently Ed King played it in the key of D, or approached it in the key of D. And you can kind of hear a little bit of that, because if you just play, you know, the normal, see if I can get that sound just a tiny bit. This. You can hear that's the key of G. But, you know, the key of G and the key of D are only differing, they only differ by 1 sharp. And likewise, you could play this in, if you were going to solo to it, you could certainly play it in the key of C, which is G mixolydian. So you could approach it that way too. This is just a theory sort of way of approaching it that you could do. And certainly the... something like that. Whatever that is right there, that you can think of as playing in the key of G, but that flatted 7th is a good note to be able to play, which is an F, not a F sharp. So the F sharp would be in G, the F would be in the key of C. So it's odd how you can approach all of that stuff. Hey, Savvy, good to see you. Good to see you. So now that we've got it here, let's see if we can answer that question on the half diminished. Okay, so a diminished chord, as you probably know, is made up of 3 notes. It's a triad, and it's made up of 3 notes. It's made up of the, let's play a diminished chord in, let's play it in G, all right? So there's a G right there. All right, so a major chord would be the 1, the 3, and the 5. The minor chord would be the 1, the flatted 3, and the 5. right? And the diminished would be the flatted 3 and the flatted 5. Now, usually that's really hard to finger, so we don't finger it that way. We finger it differently. Oops, I'm sorry. We finger it like that. Or that's one way of doing it. The half diminished then takes that. If we take the 1, the 3, and the 5, the 1 would be the G. The flatted third would be the A, the B flat, and the flatted 5 would be the C sharp, or the D flat. Okay, so if we're playing that, we're let's see, what is this right there? That is that's an E. So we're just taking that, which is a double minor 7th, right? So if we take the G and we play a minor 7, right? The normal 7 in a G would be F sharp. So we play a minor 7, that's F. And if a double minor 7 would be a 2 flats would be E. So we're just changing that E to an F. And you can hear the difference, subtle. That's the diminished, full diminished, and here's the half diminished. Very subtle, very subtle. Anyway, it turns out that the half diminished is related to a minor 6th chord, and there's other stuff around that as well. It could be viewed as a minor 6th with a different bass note. I don't want to we're getting way too much in theory, guys. I'm not going to go. So that's too much for this. I want to take a different approach which I normally use, because I think mostly I developed it by listening to MTV and just playing in front of MTV. Handle with Care from Japan. Mike M. Hey, good to see you. All right. And all right. It's all Greek to you. Yeah. Well, again, if we just keep the simple stuff, the 1 chord's the major, the 2 chord's the minor, stuff like that. If you have a situation like this, you can figure out what key to play. All right. So that's one way of doing it. But there's another way of doing it. And that is just kind of using your ears and playing that way. So let me kind of demonstrate that a little bit. And I'm going to put on an example here. You probably won't recognize it because it's just a bunch of chord things. But let's see how it goes. And we'll just play. And we'll just try and figure it out. Okay? So this is the other method. You want to listen to it a little bit first. So it's kind of a easy listening R&B type thing. Okay, so we can hear mostly it's in a key, and let's just play it. All right, let's just see what we can do. Okay, so all I really did there, let me see if I can stop it here for a second. All I really did there was noodle around until I found a key that kind of made sense to me, right? Knowing the patterns that I had. Now I could play, if you're familiar with minor pentatonics, you can play minor pentatonics. If you're familiar with major pentatonics, you can do that. If you're familiar with major scales, you can do that. But it helps to be familiar with some of those patterns. And I landed on, I landed on B flat pretty quickly. But there were a couple of places where it was a little bit weird. There were a couple of places where I wanted to go to E flat. And then there was a weird place at the end, which was kind of, it made me want to play that D note and some other odd things. So before we go on and go any further, let's see what we would have gotten if we would have taken the theoretical approach. So, and I kid you not, when I looked up the music to this, this is what I saw. Okay, get ready to hold on to your hats here. This is what I saw. So it starts out in a G minor 7th to a B flat sus added 9th chord to a B flat 9th to an E flat major 7th. All right, so a lot of this stuff sort of hanging together to a D7 sharp 9, D7 flat 9, F sharp diminished, A diminished, C diminished, G minor 7. Okay, so I'm already losing it. If I had to see all this stuff, we can simplify it in just a second, and I can show you kind of what's going on. But, you know, very soon, you can see all these changes that are in here. And if we were going to analyze the key and where the key center is moving, it's actually pretty difficult. But with a little bit of work, you can see that much of this is in B flat. Especially, it's easy if you've already noodled around and figured this is a song that's mostly in B flat. Then it's easier to come back to this, okay? And to see stuff like this, when I see a D7 sharp 9, D7 flat 9, those are just altered chords, and it means that it's probably moving somewhere. And so it is. And there's some 2-5-1s and stuff like this. But I don't want to be crazy about this. I just want to be careful about some of the things that I was noticing. So a couple of things I want to show you. First of all, this G minor and the B flat, those are both related keys. So I can play a G minor, I can play a G minor pentatonic, I can play a B flat major. That's going to work. It looks like there's some E flat stuff here. So over that chord, I can maybe do that. And then over this weird stuff, maybe I have to play a little bit deliberate. Maybe I have to play something like a D. Let's just try that. Let's simplify all this crap that's up here. D7 sharp 9, D7 flat 9, F sharp diminished, A diminished. Let's see if we can just get away with playing a D chord there, right? Notes in a D chord. And let's see how it works out. So I'm going to try to play very deliberately now over this, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be better. It's probably going to be worse because I'm going to be very conscious about what I'm doing. But let's give it a shot. So in the beginning, I'm going to play that G minor 7 or G minor pentatonic or B flat major, and then I'm just going to look for the opportunities to play that D note when it hits that weird chord. So let's listen to it first. Okay. So, you know, regardless of all this stuff, it's really actually pretty simple. It's really just G minor 7 to B flat, or there's like a sus, right? E flat major 7, and then just it's basically just a D7 chord. Right? It's actually, you can simplify it quite a bit. So I'm just going to play over a B flat because if I think about it, B flat, that's the 1 chord. G minor 7 would be the 6th chord in B flat. And E flat would be the 4 chord in B flat. So I'll just play over B flat. And then over that weird stuff, I'm just going to play the notes from a D chord. And let's see how that works out. All right. Try it this time for real. Now, it's not George Benson, but you notice how all those chords really sounded, I mean, it sounded good, right? I mean, I'm just playing a D chord there. I'm just playing the notes out of a D chord, and it sounds like I really know what I'm doing. And all I really did was kind of noodle around and then look at that stuff and say, what chord doesn't really fit here? Oh, that D chord. And then play very deliberately over the D chord. That's a very common technique I like to use. Just kind of noodle it. Yep. Yep. All right. So anyway, yeah, and alter chords and seventh chords are always moving somewhere. So they're not going to be static. They're trying to resolve someplace. So you really sound like you know what you're doing if you can play very deliberately over that chord and then quickly get back to a chord tone within the scale that you were going to. So we're going to that. So you know, get to it. All right, one more. Let's do one more example, and then we'll be out of here. So I'm going to do it again the same way. I'm going to use the noodling. I'm going to call this. What I call this is I had a couple other examples, but we're getting too bogged down in theory. I always hate when that happens. So so I call it informed. I call it informed noodling. So the example one was just what we did. I was going to do a My Girl one and show you basically how you can ignore a bunch of stuff here. But instead, you know what? I think this is a good one. Nah, we're going to skip that one. And we'll do it in a different lesson. This one's called Where To. And so we'll just listen to it and play a little bit. So let's listen to it and see what it sounds like first. Okay, this is a little more my style. Turn it up just a bit. So it sounds like maybe a 50s attempt at incorporating a little gospel. Okay. One more time, let's listen to it. So this sounds very strong key center right here. And so does that. I don't hear anything weird yet. Sounds good. That chord's a little bit different. Okay. That's normal. Normal. This right here, this walk down, that right there sounds out of key. To me anyway. Now it resolves back into the very, very good stuff. Let's try playing it again. Who got lucky? Got it. Okay, I think I got it. So let's see if I can get it now. I'm going to try playing an F. It starts again. I was just getting warmed up. One more time. All right, I think I mostly got it. So I know I got it because I actually know the chords on this one. So I'm sort of cheating, but I honestly, when I first started playing, I figured out that second one. It took me a while. So this one, so here's another, when I call it informed noodling, when I was playing around, I figured, it's the key of F, but there's a couple of chords that I have to play sort of deliberately over. Then when I actually figured out the chords, they were this, F to an A. So wait a second. Remember I said I thought that sounded a little bit funny, the second chord. It's because that normally would be an A minor, right? The 3 chord is a minor, but here it's a major. Okay, that's interesting. Then the 6 chord, which is a minor, that's fine. And then this chord, which is a slash chord, which is very similar to a C7. So it's a B with a C bass. It's trying to move back to the resolve back to the root. And then we get the same thing again. Now here's the third part. So we've got a B major 7 to a C9. Hey, that sounds like the 4 chord and the 5 chord, doesn't it? Right? The 4 chord's a major 7. The 5 chord is a dominant 7. So a ninth is a form of dominant. And then we go F to E flat to D. So those 3 things you really can't ignore. You've got to think about playing over those. You can safely ignore the A, but you got to play over these. You got to play something that's out of the key because it's a key part. It's a key part of the drama of the song. And then you're back to the G minor, which is the 2 chord, B/C, which is acting as the 4/5 chord, and back to the 1, and then there's a turnaround. So again, let's try and do this. I'm going to play, first time I'm going to ignore the A. Second time I'm going to play very deliberately over the A, and you'll hear the difference there, okay? And I always will play very deliberately over the F, the E flat, and the D. I'll try and do that the best I can, all right? One more time, and then we'll call it a lesson, and we'll get to the geeky, very geeky quiz today. All right, so here we go. That was ignoring the A. Now I'm going to play it very deliberately. Anyway, so that's it. So you can either play very deliberately over that A, right? And that, to me, that sounds really nice. You know, you can play the something like and you've got that stuff that's really nice. It shows the movement of the chord. Yeah, it sounds a little bit better the second time. I always think it plays a little bit better when you really do know and you're following a little bit over what the chords, or even better if there's a melody, if you can play with the, you know, what the key changes really are, and make that come alive a little bit. But it's also, I think, quite helpful not to simply take a theoretical approach, but to really find those notes on the fretboard and solidify them in your brain for how they work. I think there's no substitute for just taking some time, noodling around, getting to know a progression, and getting to know a song. Anyway, that's what I'm saying, and I'm sticking to it. All right. And by the way, that's very common in a gospel sort of chord progression to make that 3 chord a major. You'll hear it in like Try a Little Tenderness, and there's another Otis Redding song that's escaping me, but anyway, nice chords there. All right, let's get on to the quiz. Yeah, Dock of the Bay. That's a classic. Now that is a classic. All right. Mark isn't giving anything away. What? It's secret. What's secret? $10 donation for the fretboard. Oh yeah. Can't see. Oh geez, am I doing it again? I'm so sorry. It's hard for me to remember to keep this up. It's so unnatural. So I apologize. I'm not trying to not show the fretboard, guys or gang. I was playing F's and A's, right? I think a lot of times, here's a little hint for you. A lot of times, it really helps when I also turn on the sound, doesn't it? So a lot of times, if you can think of some of the key, the melody or the harmony, it often, if you can think about triad voicings, I know I say this over and over, but if you can think about triad voicings that are really close to each other, you can really figure out the movement in a song, and it's very helpful. So for example, if I just play an F triad right here, and then A triad, D triad, and then a B with a C bass. Back to that. And you can do the same thing up here. Very nice, right? You're only moving like 1 or 2 voices of those chords every time. And to me, at least, it really helps to understand what the movement and what the harmony is trying to get at, without thinking about all these fancy chords, added 9, and what's the name of this. Frankly, most of the time, I don't really care what the names of the chords are. I really look for minors, majors, and dominant sevenths, and then that's about it. If I see a sharp 9, I just think of that as an altered chord, and there's going to be something a little bit weird going on that, and it's going to be moving somewhere very quickly. So I just have to really think about where it's going to resolve. And that's not what a jazz guy would tell you. They'd be much more theoretical. That's not me. I know enough theory to get myself hurt, and so I gotta understand the fretboard. Anyway, all right. Let's see the double dominant. Yeah, can't see. Still, no, I can't see. All right. Well, anyway, I was trying to. I need a footstool. I do need a footstool. Thank you. Am I thinking cage shapes? Sort of. Yeah. I am. I don't think of the whole cage shape anymore. I usually just think of the triads on 3 strings. And I've given this away many times to you guys. It's usually strings 4, 3, and 2, although occasionally it's 2, 3, and it's 3, 2, and 1. And sometimes it's others as well. But it's mostly 4, 3, and 2, and 2, 3, and 1, 3, 2, and 1. All right. That's usually how I think about the guitar when I solo. All righty. Let's get on with the quiz. So, by the way, GMAC, I don't see GMAC on today, so maybe we all have a chance, but this was a quiz that was meant to throw GMAC off a little bit because it's different. It's not sort of rock trivia for the most part. It's guitar geeky stuff. All right. I really mean this is geeky. All right. So I asked my wife these questions. She got 1. She got one of these right. So usually she gets like 20 out of 21. So it's the opposite. Okay, so here we go. For electric guitar strings, light gauge, what is the gauge of the high string, the high E string? This one right here. This one right here. For light strings, what is this? What is the size of that? Nine is extra light. 8 is extra light. And Osman, you're right, though. It's 0.008. 10. That's right, Sir Tokla Smoke. On a light gauge, typically, it's 10. All right, this is extra credit. How about on the low? How about the low E? What is that typically on a typical light gauge? 46. You got it, Robbie Love. You got it. And Sir Tokla Smoke. 52. That's more like at least medium. All right. So I told you this is very guitar geeky. All right. What is the scale of a Fender Telecaster? What scale length is the Fender Telecaster? What is the scale length of the Fender Telecaster? I'm going to move this back into the center. There we go. 24 inches is not. That would be a short scale guitar. 24 is short. 25.5. I'm Anonymous is correct. It's a 25.5-inch scale. All right, 25.5 on the Fender Telecaster. There are some 24-inch scales. The Fender Jaguar is typically a 24-inch scale. It's a very short scale. And some of the Django guitars, the Gypsy Jazz guitars, they can be as much as 26.5. I think even more. Of course, baritones, you can get even more. Okay, in a standard Strat wiring, which two positions are out of phase? In a standard Strat wiring, which two positions are out of phase? For all you Strat lovers out there. 2 and 4. Savvy and I'm Anonymous. And Sir Tokla Smoke. All right, and Robbie. Bunch of people getting that Fender Strat, bunch of Strat lovers. Okay, who are two players that are known, who are a couple of players that, name some players that are known for playing in that out of phase, in either of those out of phase positions. Let's name a couple of them. Stevie. I don't remember Stevie playing in the out of phase. George Harrison, maybe Jimmy. Jimmy didn't play the out of phase too much. Yoko Ono. Jimmy mostly played on the neck or the middle. Same with Stevie, I think. He may have played on the bridge too. I don't know. Here's a hint. He was one of the key Strat players in the early 70s. Yeah, you got it. Osman. Eric Clapton played a lot of stuff in the out of phase condition or out of phase positions. Stuff like Let It Rain certainly sounds to me like it's out of phase. And some other stuff. I've got a Clapton one coming up where I used out of phase position. Any other thoughts? Oh, we did a song earlier. I can't do it on this thing. That's out of phase. You're right. Brian May plays a lot of stuff out of phase, but of course he didn't use a Strat. Ed King is one of them. Yep. I don't know about Richie Sambora. He might have. I just don't know him so well. Brian May obviously used the Red Special. Jimmy Vaughn definitely. All right, good. Some good ones here. Mark Knopfler, thank you, Savvy. That's the one I was looking for. Mark Knopfler was extremely well known for playing that. Same with Steve Gaines. So Ed King of Leonard Skinner, but also Steve Gaines played a lot in that out of phase. Listen to That Smell. His solos on that, good out of phase position soloing, and you can listen to just about any Mark Knopfler. I know a little, yeah. Good stuff. All right. Let's move on to what are the classic 1957 to 1961 Les Paul pickups referred to as? What are they referred to as? PAF. Excellent. A lot of people's coming in right away. I'm Anonymous, Sir Tokla Smoke, Savvy, Robbie, BRP, BRP, BRP. Humbuckers. Yeah, they're humbuckers, but they're called PAFs. And Savvy, you guessed my next question. What does PAF stand for? It stands for, I'll give some other people some chance to look. You got it, though. PAF stands for Patent Applied For, which is kind of goofy, right? All right, one last question. Bonnie Raitt. I don't know if Bonnie Raitt uses the out of phase. All right, who did the patent on the original PAFs? Gibson. The original humbuckers, those PAFs. Who wrote the patent? Les Paul is not correct. Seth Lover, Fenderman, 73, coming up with the right answer. Seth Lover. Yeah, dog ears are a type of P90 pickup, dog eared. All right. Yeah, Seth Lover wrote that patent. Okay. All right, here's a toughie. What kind of guitar is Jimi Hendrix most known for? A Strat. Yes, he played a Stratocaster. Now, here's a question. What kind of Strat did he play? Teisco. That's good. A white Strat. Yeah, he played a white Strat very often. You got it, Cap. That's what I was looking for. He played it right. It was a right-handed Strat. It's a regular Strat, but he played it upside down, right? He strung it upside down. There you go. Stock late 60s. Yeah, it was all stock stuff. He just played it upside down. So he didn't play a left-handed guitar, as I think a lot of people are confused about that. He played it left. He played a regular guitar left-handed. Now, I understand that Albert King, when he played guitar, he didn't play a Strat, but he just flipped it around and didn't even flip the strings around. So that's pretty interesting, to me anyway. And that's why he can get those wicked bends. They're just totally different. All right. Let's see. What type of guitar was used in the solo to Stairway to Heaven? What kind of guitar was used in the solo to Stairway to Heaven? Savvy and I'm Anonymous got it correctly. It was a Tele, a 59 Tele. In fact, I don't know if it was a 59 Tele. I thought it was like a 61. But in any event, it was definitely a Tele. It was definitely a Tele. But what did Jimmy Page typically use to play it live? What did Jimmy Page typically use to play the Stairway to Heaven solo in when he played it live? That's right. He played it with that, Robbie. He played it with the with that double neck. Yeah. I forget what the name is, but it was basically a double neck SG. He played it with a double neck SG. And if you see Song Remains the Same, that's what he typically used, apparently. And that was because he could play, it was a 12 string on one, and he could play the opening and the stuff like that on that 12 string, and then switch over to the 6 string to do the solo and the latter part. Okay. What was Jimmy Page's number one? What was Jimmy Page's number one? Doyle Bramall, huh? Didn't know that. What was Jimmy Page's number one? I think the connection must be a little bit slow today. A 59 Les Paul, absolutely. Oh, Fender, man. And who who did he buy it from? It was Cherry Sunburst also, by the way. 59 Les Paul. Who did he buy it from? Who did Jimmy Page buy that from? Fender man, no talking. That's right. He bought it from Joe Walsh. So he actually bought that famous Les Paul that he used from Joe Walsh. Okay. Before we go off it, what album did he first use that 59 Les Paul on? What album did he first use that 59 Les Paul on to get that Zeppelin sound? Led Zeppelin 2. That's right. That's right. Led Zeppelin 2. So the second one. Yeah, I think we're all kind of lagging here. I'm seeing Joe Walsh come up still now. All right. Led Zeppelin 2. But I still remember sitting in my friend's basement and listening to that. And it sounded so heavy. The drums and the guitar, hearing everything come back in on that Whole Lot of Love after that weird thing that was going on with, in that middle part. Bonham just coming in on the drums. Oh, 59 Les Paul. Can't beat it. Okay. We're going to take a bit of a turn now. What was B.B. King's name for his guitar? What was B.B. King's name for his guitar? Fender man comes through. I'm anonymous. Lucille. That's right. Led Zeppelin must be listened to in a basement somewhere. Yeah, we had the windows cracked open with a towel under the door. So, we were all right. Okay. Lucille, that's right. Lucille. And typically, what type of guitar was Lucille? What type of guitar was Lucille typically? It's a fine time to leave me. A 335. That's right, Dave. Dave Monty. Good to see you, by the way. Hope you're feeling well. Sir Tokla Smoke. I'm anonymous. You got it. I know in the beginning, he actually played a Telecaster in some of the beginning things. Weird. All right. What brand of guitar, what was Pete Townshend's guitar move called? What was that move called? Pete Townshend's guitar move. The Windmill. You got it, Savvy, and I'm anonymous, and Fenderman 73, and Voicey. Great job. All right. What brand of guitar was used on the recordings of I Can't Explain, Anywhere, Anyhow, Anyway, and My Generation? What brand of guitar? A Rick. You got it. I'm anonymous, getting it with the Rickenbacker. Fenderman. All right, Sir Tokla Smoke. Not a Telecaster. It was a Rickenbacker. All right. Okay, here's kind of an easy one. What was Chuck Berry's move called? What was Chuck Berry's move called? Duck walk. You got it. Duck walk. All right. Duck walk. Okay, what brand of guitar or what type of guitar model was Roy Buchanan famous for? You got it. MacDon BR. MacDon BR. Telecaster. Telly. Everybody coming up with Telly. You got it. Okay, we'll do a few more of these. What was the favorite guitar brand of Mr. Guitar? What was the favorite guitar brand of Mr. Guitar? Gretsch. Fenderman coming up with it. Fenderman coming up with the favorite brand of Mr. Guitar. That might be tough if you don't know who Mr. Guitar is, so maybe somebody can enlighten us and tell us who Mr. Guitar is. Who's Mr. Guitar? YouTube blocked you. Chet. That's right. Chet Atkins. All right. Chet Atkins. You got it. Mr. Guitar played a Gretsch. Okay. What type of amp did Brian May favor throughout the use of, throughout Queen's history? What type of amp did Brian May favor? Okay, so a couple of people are saying Vox. What type of Vox? There you go, Savvy. Vox AC30. You got it. Hiwatt were favored by Townsend. Townsend played Hiwatt. Okay. What was special about the Red Special? What's so special about the Red Special? I like Hiwatts. It was pink. That's right. Brian May made it with his dad. It took over like 2 years. They made it over the course of like 2 years. That's right. He made it himself. Okay, here's a real tough one for you guys. What is Angus Young's favorite guitar? Angus Young's guitar. Is that right? He made it from a chair, Matt. There you go. SG. Everybody coming up with a SG. A Chibson. I don't think so. Okay, and what type of amps did he prefer? What type of amps did they prefer? Did Angus Young prefer? Marshall. You got it, Dave. Dave Monty. Marshalls. That's right. Okay, and what types of pedals does Angus Young use? What types of pedals is Angus Young known for using? None. You got it. I'm Anonymous coming up with the trick question answer. Angus Young didn't use pedals. He didn't use distortion. He used frickin' lots of volume. That's how he got his sound. It was volume. It was not gain. It's no pedals. Yep. Got to respect that. Just plug it in. It's dirt. I read that some people call it dirt biking. You just go in, you plug the amp in, just the guitar, and it's even more dirt biking if you just have one pickup on your guitar. All right. What did Stevie Ray Vaughan call his favorite guitar? What did Stevie Ray Vaughan call his favorite guitar? Smoking section. Playing. I'm Anonymous coming in with number one. Yeah, I don't know how, Dave, I don't know how many speakers Angus might have blown out. Lenny, nope. Well, it might have been called Lenny because he called it number one, but he also called it first wife. So I think Lenny was his first wife, right? So I think so. So that might be it, Lenny, yeah. Okay, let's move on a little bit. Who is known as Mr. 335? Who is known as Mr. 335? Who is Mr. 335? Alex Lifeson is not correct. Fenderman 73 coming through with Larry Carlton. That is right. Larry Carlton. That's a good guess, Alex Lifeson, because he used 335s a long time. But Larry Carlton is the guy, Mr. 335. Possibly my favorite player. I love Larry Carlton. All right. Let's see. Name Tom Petty's guitar player. Who is Tom Petty's guitar player? Should be pretty simple. There you go, Fenderman. And I'm Anonymous and Robbie, Mike Campbell. Mike Campbell, LP player. All right, Mike Campbell. Sir Tokla Smoke, Mike Campbell. What, again, great player, real original, has a really cool sound. And, you know, he's not going to be playing any jazz. That's for sure. Okay. Let's see. All right, let's move on to another famous guitar. So what guitar or guitar stuff, what guitar did Eric Clapton use to produce his Woman Tone? What guitar did Eric Clapton use to produce his Woman Tone? No, it wasn't Blackie. Good question. SG. So that's one of them. That's one of him, but he used a special SG called the Fool. And if you look it up, it's called the Fool because it was hand painted, and he got it on that SG. But the original recording was actually not done on an SG. It was done on a LP Black Beauty. Okay, on an LP Black Beauty, a Les Paul Black Beauty, the original one. Rundgren has the Fool. Oh, that's very interesting. I did not know that. It is definitely a cool looking guitar. I love that SG, and the pictures of him playing it, where he's got that, you know, that curled out big afro. It's really pretty cool. All right. So let's see. So what's Clapton's most famous strat? I mean, what's Clapton's most famous strat? Now you can answer your question, Savvy. What's Clapton's most famous strat? That's right, Blackie. That's right, Blackie. Brownie. Blackie. All right. Now, when he went to Nashville, Clapton went to Nashville in 1970, and he famously bought 6 Strats. And apparently from those 6 Strats, he ended up coming up with Blackie, but he gave 3 Strats away. Who did he give those 3 Strats to? Who did he give the 3 Strats to? And he came back with 3 of them that were in Nashville. George Harrison is one of the people that he gave the Strats to. He gave a Strat to George Harrison. 2 other guys. George Harrison's one. A couple of people got that. Freddie Fender. No, good guess. J.J. Cale is a great guess. It's not correct, but that is a great guess. Delaney Bramlett. Nope. These guys are famous, okay? They're both pretty famous. One is more famous than the other. George Harrison is one. That's the most famous. The second guy has been mentioned on this quiz already. Not Alvin Lee, not Dylan. He was with a group that was very popular. They came out with their biggest hit came out in 1965. But they were a band that made it to the 80s. Steve Winwood is another one. That was the hard one to guess. And Pete Townsend, that's right. So Harrison, Steve Winwood, and Pete Townsend got Clapton Strats. Isn't that cool? That's pretty neat. That is pretty neat. Okay, just a couple more here. What's the scale of a Gibson Les Paul? What's the scale length of a Gibson Les Paul? $24.5, almost there. 25 3/4, almost. 24 3/4. I'm anonymous. You get the Cupid doll on that one. 24 3/4 of an inch is the normal scale for a Gibson guitar, and for Les Paul, for 335, for all of those. So people that don't have as big hands very often play Gibson rather than Fender. Angus Young's a good example of that. Okay. What's the scale length of a PRS typical guitar? Typical PRS guitar. Anybody know? Oh, sorry to hear that, El Rondo. You're too laggy. 25. That's right. It's exactly 25 inches. So just between the Gibson Les Paul and the Fender. A lot of people find that very comfortable. I find it very comfortable. All right. What tuning did Jimmy Page use in Black Mountainside? Frank, is that right? You and Clapton, same birthday. I have the same birthday as Elton John. I'm Anonymous comes through with Dadgad. Dadgad tuning, Black Mountainside. DAG, GAD. Dadgad. Okay. Let's see. What is the tuning that Keith Richards favored? What tuning did Keith Richards favor? Open G. Open G. A bunch of people getting Open G. Robbie, BRP, Sir Tokla Smoke, Fenderman, TBA, LP player. All right. And what model of guitar did Keith play? What model did Keith play? He played a Tele. That's right. He played a Tele, but it was a special Tele back in its day. The neck pickup was routed to have a humbucker. So he played a Telecaster with a Tele bridge, but the neck was a humbucker. It's called the Keith Telecaster. Check it out. All right. What was special about Frampton's guitar that he used on Frampton Comes Alive? What was special about Frampton's guitar and Frampton Comes Alive? That's right. It had 3 PAFs. That was very rare back then to have 3 humbuckers. And it still is pretty rare. It had a special 3 pickup job. It was actually stolen, and then he got it back like 15 years later or something like that. Yeah. Weirdness. All right. Last question. Last question. What's special about Nigel Tufnell's amplifier? What's special about Nigel Tufnell's guitar amp? That's right, BRP. It goes to 11. It's an amp that goes to 11. If you don't know about that, do yourself a favor and Google Spinal Tap goes to 11 and watch the video. It's classic, absolutely classic. It's 1 louder. That's right. All right. Well, this week was a real Guitar Geek quiz. I have to say, in the next couple of weeks, I've got so much travel coming up. I may end up missing a Sunday, and I'll post a lick instead. And GMAC, who wasn't here today, was kind enough to send me a few other quizzes. So that we'll see how his quizzes go as well. Anyway, have a great Sunday. We're over an hour already today, so I'm going to get out. I'm going to enjoy the sunshine. There's a little bit of time there. I want to thank you all for joining me today on this Sunday. Hope you got a little bit, a little bit out of it, out of the lesson. I'm going to try and button that up and post another lesson on that, and maybe kind of tighten it a little bit so we can get it. But really want to thank everybody for coming, and have a great, great Sunday and a great week. All right. What PRS do I own? So I only own cheap PRSs. Just answer a few questions as we're kind of going out. If you have any other questions, we'll sit around. This is a SE24 standard. SE standard. This you can pick up used for $350. It is a very, very versatile guitar. It's a very, very comfortable guitar. This neck scoop, you can get anywhere in this neck really super easy. Very high quality. The trem is good. It has push-pull. It has push-pulls to split the coils. So it's pretty versatile. $350. I've also got an SE Tremonti where I swapped out the pickups. It's like a Les Paul with a tremolo. And Mark Tremonti is a heavy metal player, so his pickups are really, really hot. So I swapped those out and I put in PAFs. I put in 59 PAFs. I didn't put in the real stuff. I put in a copy of it, not from Seymour Duncan, but from Mojo Tone. Great pickups. But anyway, that's what I've got. I've got an SE Standard and an SE Tremonti. Both pretty inexpensive guitars. Yeah. The birds are nice. I mean, PRS, look, if you're going to pay for one of those more expensive ones, they're still worth it. But I mean, if you look at this one, for example, there's just no bling, right? There's no bling or maple cap or anything like that. It's just a chunk of mahogany, and it does the job. And I actually bought it for travel so I could beat it. And yeah, it was good. If you buy stuff on Reverb ever, Dave's Guitar Shop on Reverb has lots of PRSs. You can look at them, and they're fantastic guitars, really well built. Yeah, recommend them. Recommend them. I really enjoy the heck out of playing them. The necks are really comfortable. We'll see if there's some other ones. Nigel equals Jeff Beck. I didn't know that. I've seen Nigel actually play. Christopher Guest. He actually can play. He played once with Les Paul, if you can believe that. They played Sweet Georgia Brown together, and he actually could play. I mean, he's messing up some, but he actually played with Les Paul. Really interesting. No guitar is worth more than $800 unless you're investing. Well, if you're investing in a guitar that you like to play, I would disagree with that, actually. I think there are some guitars that are certainly worth much more than $800. Much more. However, you can get a decent guitar for a small. It's shocking what you can get a good guitar now for, right? If you just want to get up and play, if you want exactly what you want, you know, then it's going to cost you more. If you want exactly the frets that you want, if you want exactly the body shape, exactly the pickups. Like many of my guitars, I've had refretted because I don't like the frets that come. And a lot of guitars, I just don't like the frets that are there. So there's $350 right there to get it refretted. But some of those PRSs are just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you're going to pay $8,000. It's mostly for the craftsmanship on the wood and stuff like that. So if you like that, I think as then it is sort of for an investment. But it seems to me like a very poor investment to invest in a guitar. It's going to be very rare that you're going to hit the, 1959 Les Paul or 52 Telecaster or something like that. PRS Custom 24. Yeah. So the Custom 24s are even nicer than the standard 24s. No question. No question. I mean, $800 is a real chunk of change. That's a good amount of money that you're going to pay. So it's you know what? We're very fortunate where we can get a professional instrument for $1,000. You can get a professional guitar for $1,000. Reverend makes them. Gibson doesn't make them. Fender sort of makes them, kind of. PRS, I think, makes them. The SEs are pretty darn good. Certainly good for touring. I mean, you're not going to get a hollow body if you're a jazz player. You're not going to get for $1,000. You're not going to do that. You're going to have to spend a little bit more. Even there, you could get an Eastman or something like that for $1,200, $1,500. So those are professional quality instruments. But I mean, get a professional quality flute, you're going to spend $25,000, or a violin, professional quality, same thing. So we're lucky. Same with classical guitars; they're not cheap. You want a real quality instrument, you're going to really have to pay. A Cort Flying V for $150. Yeah, I mean, they're out there for sure. Yeah, they're out there. I mean, think about it. You can pick up a Squier Affinity Telly for like $199 without even haggling, right? It's just, they'll ship it to you free in the box. And then, within 15 minutes, you can set it up and it'll be okay. It'll be good. What do I think of Taylor guitars? They're great guitars. I hate them though. So that's what I think about them. They're wonderful guitars. To me, they sound, I don't like the sounds. They sound a little brittle. I much more prefer a Martin boomy type of sound. And it just doesn't feel warm to me, Taylor's, with the ebony fretboards and stuff like that. But they're wonderfully made instruments. There's no question about it. And if you respond to that sound really well, that's great. I know some people who only play Taylors. They're lovely guitars. Classic Vibe. Yeah, Squier Classic Vibes are great guitars. Yeah, I've been a Martin player for years. I only have one Martin left. I've sold my other Martins. I don't know why, but I have. I only have my original Martin DM. It's the mahogany back guitar, spruce top. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's a great, Dave, when you're saying you buy an inexpensive guitar and then you spend money to put in the setup and stuff like that. I remember years ago, a friend of mine was saying, "Oh, I thought that it was so dumb that so and so put money into the setup and it was just a Squier to begin with." Well, not if you want a great playing guitar and sounding guitar. You can buy a Squier and put in new hardware, new pickups, a new nut, have it really professionally set up, and it's going to be great. And you still, you'll pay certainly less than a custom shop Fender. Yeah. I see, Dave. You do the luthier work yourself. I do basic stuff, but I don't do beyond that. If I don't really care about the stuff, I'll take care of the fret ends, and anyway, I can do that. I can do the setup. I can swap pickups usually. I won't do it with a semi-hollow, but with a solid body, I'll swap the pickups and electronics and stuff. Gibson acoustics. I've never owned a Gibson acoustic. My brother swears by them, and he swears by Guilds as well. He loves his Guild. But he's more of a folky kind of guy. He likes playing a lot of folky stuff. But you know what? I mean, he's worked in more coffee shops than I'll ever work in. And he's not a barista either. Ah, Dave, you do refrets and stuff like that. Wow. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's Starcaster. I agree. I think I love 335s. I always have since I think it's because my hero Larry Carlton played a 335, but those Starcasters, weird guitars. They look strange to me. I never liked the looks of them. Great guitar for free. There you go. All right, folks. Looks like it's always fun to talk to you guys. Ever been to the Martin factory? Yeah, I was there. I was there, wow, 15 years ago now, maybe 20 years ago. God, been such a long time. That was a fun trip. I remember going down there just to do it from upstate New York. It was a lot of fun. Sir Tokla Smoke says, I have a 339. Yeah, I thought about buying. There was a while where I thought about buying the Epiphone 339, and I just didn't do it. But I like the body size on the 339. The deal was that I got right before Epiphone came out with them. I found on the internet an Ibanez. I think it's called an AXP. So it's like a Les Paul body, but it's got F holes. Okay, so it's semi, and so it's nice and small, And that's the issue with the 335. It's such a big body. So I wanted something smaller. 339 would have fit. I just didn't want to pony up the cash. And I found this thing for $137 on eBay. So I bought it knowing that it was probably going to be a piece of shit. And it kind of was, but it cleaned up nicely and the neck was really good. And I got it refretted and I put in new pickups. I put, $350, $400 into it. Hey, Crow Black, glad you could make it. We're just about to close up shop. We're just kind of wrapping at the end here. I'm procrastinating on going for my walk. Ibanez Expressionist. I don't know that model. Is that like a semi-hollow? Savvy asks, have I ever built a guitar? Yes, it's in progress, and boy, is it terrible. I made a mistake with the bridge, so I've got to refill the whole. Oh, it's terrible. I was going to show it to you guys after I built it, but it was so bad. I'll get it done, though. I'll get it done. And mostly, I was hoping I could do it over the holiday break, but I got no time. And then, I don't. This is the most I take on my. And this, on the weekends, this is all I got. I work so much. I got to do something about the work situation. It's not treating me well right now. Ibanez artist. I've got an old Ibanez, or a fairly new Ibanez artist. Nice guitar, but needs to be set up. Oh yeah, okay, Ibanez. Yeah, I love the Ibanez semi-hollows or semi-acoustics. They're really good. And yeah, they're just really good guitar. Have I ever owned a Gibson? No, I never have. I never have. The closest I came to it was I got one of those Agile guitars. And I have to say, it was a fantastic guitar. These are made in Korea, I believe. And the company is in New Hampshire. Kurt is the owner. I think it's called Rondo Music. But Agile makes them. And, you know, they probably make many of the other Gibsons as well that are made in Korea, or Epiphones, I mean. And I have to say, it was unreal how good that guitar was, but the neck was unplayable for me. It was just it was so fat, and I like fat necks. It was just too much for me. But that's the only knockoff I had. I guess when I was younger, I had an Ibanez non-lawsuit Gibson copy, but that was like in the 1970s. That was also a piece of junk. But Ibanez did make some really good ones. I did not have one of those. But that's it. I never bought a Gibson. And what bothers me about that is they say Gibson. I have no problem that China makes guitars that are Les Paul copies or Strat copies or everything, but put the damn label of your own on there. Don't put Gibson or Fender or anything like that. That's bull. I just don't. I don't support that at all. I get it when people order it, but you know, change the label. I really wonder how many people order it and then they're just trying to dupe people here. And maybe you can fix it up and it'll sound great. I don't know. I did order once upon a time. I ordered a Fender, and I thought it was not going to say Fender because it wasn't going to be a Fender for 150 bucks. And I got it, and it said Fender, and the hardware said Fender. And you open it up, it's clearly not Fender, and the workmanship was horrible on it. This is a long time ago. I think it's gotten better now, but yeah, just don't put Fender on it. If it's not a Fender, don't say it's a Fender. If it's not a Gibson, don't say it's a Gibson. Then I have no problem. Then make the guitars and sell them and what have you. 1980 Natural wound up being destroyed by an ex-wife. 12-string. Oh no. Oh no. You've heard the joke about the guy who was killed by his wife, and the judge, and his wife killed him with his own guitar, and the judge asked the wife if she was if it was first a Fender, and she said no, first a Gibson, then a Fender. Sorry, that's such an old bad joke. I can't even tell it well. It's so bad. All right. Anyway, folks. I think I'm going to head out, and really thanks for watching. A Rickenbacker from China. I hope it doesn't say Rickenbacker. Anyway, but it probably does. I just think that's uncool. Part of the world, I guess. All right. Anyway, I'll see you later, folks. Thanks a lot for joining me. Hour and 18 minutes on, and hope you enjoyed the quiz. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. We'll see you next week with a new video and new live. All right. Have a great week, everybody, and a great Sunday. Thanks, STK BKR. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody.